get ready to the countdown.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Stance. You're on mute.
And we're missing
Yeah,
Ant.
it's randomly muting me. If you guys want to go ahead and share the stream, go right ahead. We're gonna bring on our guests to get started.
Oh, that's fine.
Already did.
That's confusing.
Huh?
I was
What I missed?
confused. Thinking, where's Ant?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna bring on our guests in just a
Okay.
few. After we share the screen, and we're gonna our stream today is actually entitled "We're honoring the victims of the Watchtower." We're gonna explain what we mean by victims, and because a lot of people, if you're watching our stream, especially if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you're like, well, what victims of the Watchtower? Well, we're gonna go through who they are, and why don't we go ahead and bring on our guests? We have Anthony and Libby.
Hi.
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 Hello.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. For the both of you. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Spence
Thank you.
frozen already. We're going to echo off each
Did it come
other.
back?
Yes, you're back now.
Oh, okay. So why don't we go ahead and get into it? Before we do that, we have Libby, who's our special one of our special guests here today. Why don't you give us some your background and who you are, and maybe a little bit of your ex-Jehovah's Witness story?
Yeah, I could definitely do that. My name is Libby Pease, and I have my own life coaching business. I'm an internationally certified life coach, so I can work with anyone all over the world. My history is that I was Jehovah's Witness for 10 years. I married in and divorced out, and I can go into that in a little bit more detail a little bit later. But one of the things that I have always been passionate about is supporting people. My first experience with suicide was actually when I was 13, when one of the individuals that I went to school with chose to die by suicide, and I was one of the last kids on the bus to be able to speak with him, and he gave me all of his pencil crayons that he didn't need for school for the next day. So I had from that point been very interested in supporting people so that they didn't feel that that was the only choice that they had in life. That passion for wanting to help people sort of got sidelined when I became a witness, when I married in, but it definitely got picked up again when when I came out, and I really dove into that with both feet in order to be able to support people, because I saw the damage that was being done when I was in, and I saw the heartbreak that it gave, even specifically to my ex-husband. I know that during the end of our marriage, he was at the point where I was doing suicide watch and no one was taking me seriously. So I wanted to be able to have the skills, and I worked for 20 years in suicide crisis response before I even became a certified life coach. So I don't know what more details would you?
Well, actually, that could get us off to a great start here. Why don't we go into why we are having the stream? And it's because that we're honoring Watchtower Memorial Victims Day. Did I say that right?
Yep.
I'm always getting that wrong.
so.
And then we'll ask you for your comments, if you don't mind, throughout as we go throughout our presentation, Libby.
Oh yeah, I can definitely put comments in as we go.
All right, sounds great. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
All right. So, Emma, did you want to start us off?
I'll unmute myself first. Okay, so Watchtower Victims Memorial Day. It's observed every third Saturday of July, and on that day, people leave like a flower, a teddy, a bear, or some type of memorial at the Kingdom Hall. People leave them at assembly halls. You can leave cards, notes. We've also like branched out into leaving things more in the public eye, like in public parks and areas where other people go. And basically, it's just to commemorate and honour those that have lost their lives due to being victims of the Watchtower, whether by not having blood transfusion, by suicide, and also to stand kind of hand in hand with those that are shunned by their friends and family, and to have a day of like support. And in the pictures there, it's just that one actually on the bottom left is one of the first ones I did, and it's different pictures how people leave like different memorials, I guess. And that was a website, so that's watchtowervictimsmemorial.com.
So as we go into our live stream, as Emma mentioned, this day is to commemorate victims who were victimized because of the policies, no blood transfusion policies. The actual site also includes child sex abuse victims, and those who have died because of suicide due to shunning policies. The first one that we're going to go into is the blood policy. You want to tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here, Molly? You're on mute.
Well, sorry. So basically, if you are a Jehovah's Witness or an ex-Jehovah's Witness, then it will not be new to you that Jehovah's Witnesses abstain from blood transfusions, claiming that it's biblical to do so, and because they believe that it's against God's will, even if it's their own blood in some cases, as this organization, Medical Protection Notes, and then they use these three verses. Oh damn! I'm not sure why. So basically, they use these three Bible passages that says it's blood you must not eat, and then it says that anyone consuming blood will be cut off, and then abstain from blood. So they use these Bible passages to justify not receiving blood treatment and blood transfusions, and obviously there is quite a few unfortunate deaths and early deaths that are unnecessary due to this policy.
And then there is the next slide here that we have here, Molly. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here? This goes on into the shunning policy, which many people have experienced suicide. Yeah. It'll fill us over after leaving, or even as Jehovah's Witnesses.
Of course. So it's shunning is basically what Jehovah's Witnesses would call disfellowshipping, and as you can see, it says do not receive them into your homes. A simple hello to someone is the first step to a conversation and even a friendship. They want that with a disfellowshipped person. They say that this kind of avoidance is necessary because withdrawal from unrepentant wrongdoers, protects the congregation's good standing, and can benefit the disfellowship person by making them realize that it's a mistake to go against Jehovah, and then they say that it's losing precious fellowship with loved ones may help the disfellowship come to their senses. And that is, I highlighted that in red to just indicate how crazy manipulative and abusive this stuff is, because that's right there in their own literature. They say they do it to manipulate people into coming back, which is just a terrible emotional abuse.
I'm not really sure what's going on with your audio, Molly. We did test the stream before. I know that's the joys of live streaming. It's kind of unpredictable at times, but I don't know if you want to check to see. It's like a crackling sound. And also, I want to thank our viewers from Twitter. Finally, I was able to get the Twitter stream up. I was doing that in the background. So thank you for our two viewers on Twitter. And thank you for everybody who's joined us by YouTube and Facebook today. So while Molly is working on her sound, why don't we actually take a look at I think Molly, I'm gonna mute Molly. Can you guys hear me? I just want to acknowledge Alvin's comments here. Okay, I don't know if the sound came back here. Wow, the live stream is really live today. He says that he's remembering his late wife, Angela, who died 17 years ago last week thanks to the Watchtower blood policy. Our heart goes out to you, Alvin. Thank you for joining the stream. And I've seen quite a bit of your pictures on Facebook honoring her. And in addition to the blood policy, as we talked before, the shunning policy also, we've lost a lot of people due to the fact that they just can't handle being an outcast or shunned by all of their family, everybody they've ever known as friends. And it gets to be in a really, those people feel they are in a really lonely place. A lot of us on this panel are speaking from our own experiences, which we will go into later. I wanted to go to the next slide. And these are some of the Watchtower's ideas on suicide. Did you want to take another stab at it, Molly?
Okay, can you hear me now? Is it better at all?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So it's because sometimes it works better with my headphones and other times it doesn't work with my headphones. So it's anyway, Joseph live streaming. So yeah, so here we see some of the quotes I found in jw.org and that we found in their publications. So they say that the intentional killing of oneself is self-murder and is displeasing to God. And then they say that life is a gift from God, not something to be abused or end at one's own hand. And then they say that one who takes his own life deprives himself of the opportunity to repent, which I think is just, for the obvious reasons, is a very, very, again, emotionally corrupt statement to make, especially if you know that there are suicidal people in your congregation, in my opinion, and in my experience.
And from the side of someone who supports individuals who have been suicidal, you know, it's like the way they present it, it's like you are intentionally murdering yourself for the reasons you might murder somebody else. Not that you would, but you know, suicide in most of the cases are individuals who feel that there's no other option, that if they need to be able to escape the pain, and that's the only thing that they feel that's within their control to be able to stop the pain, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain. So if that pain was addressed, then there would be no need for suicide, right? But instead, it's this guilt trip of, well, it's unforgivable and you will lose all of these things. Well, that's just putting more pressure, that's putting more pain into the situation, rather than addressing what is the loving thing that you need right now. What is it that is not being supported within your life that we can support you to be able to have? So it really is a shift. It's a manipulation, really, control element.
I think there's sound issues going on today for some reason.
Oh, is my sound not good?
No, yours is fine. I think Molly's having problems.
Okay, can you?
I think Spencer. Yeah, you're louder now. You keep kind of crackling like a robot crackle noise.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, true professional with 20 million headsets in order to make it work.
Hang on. Okay, can you?
Yeah,
Can
we can
you
hear you
hear-
now.
Okay. Jesus fucking Christ.
We seem to have lost Spencer there.
So anyway, I can attest to what Libby was saying about putting more blame and more pain on suicidal people with this, because I know that they always spoke on suicide in such a kind of blasé manner, that they were like, well, see how Noah didn't do it, and see how Jesus didn't do it, and this and that biblical person didn't do it, and it's kind of like this. Why can't you be like that? And benefits anyone.
I just wanted to welcome our other guests, Draven and Tyler. Thanks for joining us. You figured out how to get in? You're on mute.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, are you an ex-Jehovah's Witness?
Technically current, actually.
Okay.
So I'm not disfellowshipped or disassociated. I've been paid for about a year, but been getting into more active, trying to get into more activism, and so yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. You probably are very intimately aware of the policies of the Watchtower concerning blood, the shunning, and the child sex abuse policies.
Yeah, I've had friends and family affected by, I think, pretty much all of them. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today. We are having technical difficulties today. We're going to try this, our screen share that we had up earlier again. So, can you guys see that?
Yep, we can. Now we can.
All right,
Yep.
so we're going to go to the next slide, right? And you want to lead us off, Emma?
Okay, so these are some of my posters that I put around town, and also who's with us today, Draven and Anthony. They always help me put these posters out. This was in what's called the castle grounds, which is like we have a castle in our town, and then there's like a big public area where there's lots of people. So I've started putting posters down there now. And then we kind of walked and put more posters out, and then walked back past this, and we kind of loitered, and people were like stopping to read it, which was cool. And this is like we put out posters in bus stops. So this is like one of our local bus stops that we left posters in.
Okay. Give me 1 second here.
We left them on benches, lampposts. And then I found out on one of our local Tamworth groups, somebody had literally like posted about it. So they'd seen one of the flyers on a bench, and then, you know, people started talking about it. They started looking up jwfacts.com. So it was really cool that, you know, it was actually noticed by people and spoke about. When I looked on the sex offender register, probably last year I think it was, I found out that there was 4 local sex offenders that would have been at our conventions and we were never told about. So I left these posters up in on a busy walkway. So there's like an underpass where we leave posters. I left them up there just to let the public know that these people were, you know, known paedophiles and rapists, and they were just allowed to roam free amongst the witnesses and the public, and we were never warned about them. So if we'd have gone to a convention, we would have trusted these people. We would have sat next to them, spoke to them, and not known who they were. So this is just a disclaimer to say that the next pictures were victim stories that were told to me, and I was given permission to share their stories. So in the underpass, I left like victims' true stories so people can have a read. And this time I decided that we should go down to some tunnels where all the kids hang out. It's like a bit of a skate area. And I thought, well, the kids are the next generation. They're the ones that need to know about JW policies and things like that. So, you know, they most likely probably go to school with witnesses. So I thought, you know, let's kind of aim at the younger generation and get the word out to them. So we went down to the skate park and we put out, this is like, you'll see pictures next. This is some victim stories that we left on like the skate bench. So yeah, my messy writing. So I said this is like basically friends' true stories that they told me. And then this part, I think it's important to tell kids that if you know a Jehovah's Witness kid at school, please be nice to them, because most are forced to be in the religion. Most secretly hate it, and you could be the only real friend that they have. And I really do want to get that message out to kids, because when I was at school, I know people took the piss out of us for being, you know, witnesses and stuff. But if you're a kid and you want to leave, you need to know that you have got like real friends out there that you can depend on if you leave. And I think it's important for the public to know that kids don't necessarily want to be in the religion. Sometimes we don't get a choice. So I just want them to kind of be there for them if they choose to leave. This again is down like the same tunnels where they do lots of really cool graffiti, and it was actually Draven's idea. He put the sticker in on the back of that guy to start with, and then I thought it'd be really cool to put another one in his hand, and then obviously like we made it so it looked like the horses were carrying the messages. So then last of all we went to the Kingdom Hall and we left some big posters there. I think I've got close-ups of these on the next slide, I think. So yeah, blatantly, obviously, what that says, stop protecting paedophiles, start protecting children. And then obviously I'll put about, you can take these posters down, but you can't hide the truth, because every time I put posters up, they're normally gone within 20 minutes. And then I wanted to state your harmful child sex abuse stories child sex abuse policies are on your website for the public to see anyway. And then a bit of information about the Watchtower Victims Memorial Day, that we all stand together, and it's for all those sexually abused members that were never given justice as well and not reported to the police. This next one is Draven, so I'll let him tell you about that himself. Draven?
Sorry, I'm having some trouble with my headphones. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We can hear you well.
Well, I made this because you can see what it says on it pretty much. I think you can probably read it. My writing is not that bad, I don't think. Um, Basically, well, I can read it again and say, in memory of all the lives destroyed by shunning, sexual abuse, the two witness rule, the suicides, and the no blood policy, mental illness caused by the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania, publishers of Jehovah's Witnesses literature, and on the back I said, if you
I was going to
think,
say that's in the next slide, Spence. The back should be. Yeah.
all right, yeah. I wrote a message for the people who were taking it down, saying, if you think we lie and we're making things up, do your own research and prove it. You claim to be in the truth and to have the truth by your side. Do your research. What do you have to lose? If you're right, you have nothing to worry about. Right. So that was my poster, my sign.
I also left some of the flyers that I've printed off. They are literally like the May 2019 Watchtower with their child sex abuse policies in. So I left some of them along with the posters. So if anyone wanted to pick them up and have a read of them. So yeah, that just speaks for itself. Like Watchtower Victims Memorial Day is in memory of family left behind who were brainwashed into shunning their non-believing family. And also in memory of all the former Jehovah's Witnesses that took their lives due to being shunned. So we thought this would be a good opportunity as well to leave some helplines for people. So there's like Samaritans and different places where people can ring and get some support if they need to.
And these are the lines in the UK, right?
Yeah.
And the ones that's coming up on the next slide is the ones in the U.S. The most common one is the Youth Suicide Prevention Hotline. You can also chat with them on if you don't want to talk to someone over the phone. Everything is confidential. It's 24/7, and there are some other help groups that are listed and helpful links. We're gonna make sure that this presentation is available in the group, so you'll be able to see it. And Molly, these are some crisis lines as well, right?
Yeah, these are the Hungarian helplines and helpful resources. And also these all are already in the comments of this stream, so you don't even need to have the presentation on hand because I had these comments in the presentation already in the stream. So you don't need to search for the presentation either. And then on this slide we see the GRSM helplines like the Trevor Project, the LGBT National Youth Hotline, the LGBT National Hotline, and the Crisis Text Line, which is kind of a general helpline, but they have people who are specialized to help queer youth.
And I've also added in the comments some lines for in Canada as well as specific lines in Ontario, so that those are available for any of the Canadian listeners and watchers out there.
And these are some support groups. Again, we'll let you guys have access to a lot of these lines if they're not in the comments already. And before we move on to, if you're just joining us, we are at the point of our stream where we are going to go to some clips. We started off by talking about what Watchtower Victims Memorial Day is. Again, we're focusing on the harmful policies of the Jehovah's Witnesses as it relates to medical blood transfusion, shunning, and child sex abuse. And after the clips that we go over, we're going to go on around the glass table to talk about our own stories. And at the very end, you'll want to stay tuned because we are going to have a candlelit visual for to honor the lives and the memories of the victims of the Watchtower. So
Before
go
we
ahead.
go to that, Spence, I know Ant and Draven, they was going to say a quick word like why they do the Watchtower Victims Memorial activism stuff with me.
Sure.
Hello all. I'm Ant, and I've never had anything to do with Jehovah's Witnesses. I knew nothing about them until I met Emma. Can you hear me? Yeah, that's fine. And then she started telling me about things that goes on, and I've read other people's stories, and basically I thought it was a good cause to get involved with, and if it wasn't for Emma, I wouldn't have known anything about this at all. And I come from basically a Catholic family, although after me nan, people sort of went away from it. So I know a little bit about religions, but I didn't realise that the JW was that bad. So I'm glad I can get involved and try and help and maybe change things.
And I just want to add, like, I really couldn't do it without these guys. Like, they are my rock. They really are.
Happy to help. Can you hear me all right?
Hello, Amy. I'm sorry, Draven. Can you hear us? Okay, I can hear you.
Yep.
Okay, Amy Maria, we're gonna come to you in just a moment. I just wanted to say hello and thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Go ahead, Draven. Or did we lost somebody? Who did we lose? Libby? No, Libby's there. Somebody.
Ant's frozen, so we've gone out and coming back
Oh,
in.
okay. Is that Ant? I'm sorry. It's like the screen is playing musical chairs here, moving us all around. Okay. Go ahead, Draven. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's all right. Well, I knew even before I met Emma that there were problems within the Watchtower organization. I didn't know there were such big problems. Can you hear me all right? Okay. So what she did is she showed me the information about the Australian Royal Commission and everything else. I only knew about people getting shunned and suffering from losing family and friends, and I knew that a lot of people died because of the no blood policy, but I didn't know about all the sexual abuse that's going on. And I thought, I have to do some activism. I have to show the world what's going on, and that's why I'm supporting Emma. And whenever she needs my help, I can give her a hand. No problem.
All right. Well, before we go around the virtual glass table to share more of our experiences, we have some clips that for our audience that were handpicked by Emma. I tried to label them how you gave them to me, but the first one, I guess we were talking about the disfellowship policy, and this clip actually talks. If you're unfamiliar with Jehovah's Witnesses, you can hear from their own mouths how they feel about disfellowshipping, or what some religions commonly call excommunication. We actually had we've had throughout our episodes, we talked about excommunication and how you can be excommunicated or disfellowshipped for a number of reasons. Um, the most common is so-called sexual sins, as well as you could also be a 15-year-old kid that smoked and you kicked out of the organization, uh, and you lose all your family. You're kicked out of your home. And if you are born in Jehovah's Witness, all of your family that you know and all your friends are just gone in an instant, which is one of the reasons why so many of us are activists, to kind of stand in the gap for those who can't speak for themselves. And so, as you can see here, that kind of tells you about the policy, but there are two other clips that tells you the flip side of that policy and how that is harmful for other people, because as Emma mentioned before, people have contemplated suicide, have gone attempted suicide, and some have been actually successful at actually committing suicide. And here's just a few of those stories. That was a clip from, if you guys aren't familiar with, some of you of us may be familiar with those clips, but for those who are watching, they may not. There, it's from Lee Remini's special
Yeah.
about the Jehovah's Witnesses. Um, I'll see if I can get a link and link it into the comments in case you guys want to see the full episode of that. Another one of our clips, a couple of our clips actually come from that uh, episode. Did anybody have comments before we move on to the next
It's
clip?
just heartbreaking. Like, this is the first time I've watched that without crying, and I think it's because I watched it a few times before we've done this show. So, like, one brother stays, otherwise it would kill their parents, and then they both end up committing suicide. It's just so fucking sad and needless. Like, yeah, it makes me so sad and angry at the same time.
And it's common. It's more common than people know, and that's why we're here trying to bring awareness. So many of other extra Jehovah's Witnesses as well
Can
try to
I
bring
can I
awareness to this issue,
interject?
because more of us have been touched by a friend or knowing somebody intimately, or ourselves have tried to commit suicide over the shunning policy. Go ahead, Libby.
No, it was
It was
actually,
me.
I
It
think it
was
was
Amy.
Amy.
I'm
I
sorry,
just
Amy. Go ahead.
I just want to say I've had experience in both the attitude toward suicide and also the I'm a survivor of unreported childhood sexual abuse. But I remember after I found out, it was right after I got baptized. The month I got baptized, I was auxiliary pioneering, and word got back to me that my abuser had abused another little girl. I carry her face burned into my head to this day. It's never goes away. The guilt I feel that happened because no one came forward. So that month, my first month of auxiliary pioneering, I found that out, and I could not live with the guilt. And so I made a serious attempt on my life. First responders came, cut my clothes off. I was on life support. And then when I came to, I was in the ICU. They told me they were going to put me in a psychiatric unit once I was well enough to go there. And I was waiting for my family to come and see me, because once you go there, you can't see or talk to anyone for at least a week, if not two. They never came before they put me in the unit. And then when I went to the open floor where the family could come see me, I was really, really sick from being intubated. I got an infection in my lungs, and I was so cold and just wearing a hospital gown. And I was so sad, and I wanted to see my family so bad. And when I looked up, my older brother was there, and he had a bag, and which I assumed were clothes for me. But I was just so happy to see him until I saw the look on his face. He looked at me with absolute disgust. And he said, "How could you disrespect Jehovah so much to spit directly in his face with the sanctity of life?" And he threw the bag of clothes at me and walked out of the room. I opened the bag of clothes and he had left me the clothes that the first responders had cut off of me. So it was no help for me or sympathy or anything. It was about how it made the organization look, and it was about them. So, as far as their attitude toward suicide, what I've come to find, and what's really, really frustrating with me with this being involved in the advocacy, is what they put in print is not true. Their loving attitude, how they treat disfellowship ones, even what they say in the court of law in Canada, what they said about shunning, that they only shun spiritually. That's why they won. It's not true. So only people that have been inside and have experienced really what they practice and apply know the truth.
Thank you so much for trusting our platform and trusting us to be able to share your story. And what you say is true. Is one of the reasons why we, like I said, many other extra hope witnesses, commit to activism. And, one of the reasons why we're having a live stream today. Amy, how long have you been out of the organization? Do you mind me asking? I don't know if
No,
you
no,
mentioned
not
it.
at all. I've been I was like fading physically, trying to go down for a long time. It seems like almost 10 years, but I didn't learn until about 3 years ago that and they told me that my abuse was an isolated incident. Um,
Hmm.
I didn't even know that it wasn't the truth. I had come to the conclusion that I would just die in Armageddon, and I had accepted that. So, but the last 3 years, when I found out that everything's a lie, it just, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I went in and talked to my mom, and I sat down with her and I asked her, why when I came to you and we went to the body of elders, and I had four older adult siblings, was it not reported to the authorities? Her response was, I didn't know what the procedure was. I didn't know procedure. My mother's indoctrination overpowered her instinct as a mom. I realized right then that I was talking to a robot, a shell of who she is. And it's been a horrible roller coaster ride these last few years. And it doesn't, now what they're doing too, I'm finding, is if they know that you're speaking out, they will be very leery of doing anything as far as within the congregation as an announcement to disfellowship you. But what they'll do is tell your family, anyone that inquires, and your family will eventually tell everyone to shun you. So I'm being shunned, and they are tactical. They are tactical in their method of trying to get people like me out, other survivors, by calling us liars, saying that we have motives other than just wanting to be validated, just saying that there was a malicious abuse of power that has happened, and we were wrong, and we're going to fix it, and we're sorry. But that just, they'd rather re-victimize us. I feel re-violated. I feel angry, hurt, devastated, silenced again. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. But people like you that do what you're doing. I talked to Lexi Nunez because I was devastated of the case when they overturned it based on stating that they're clergy, when all of my life I have been told they're not clergy. And people like you and Lexi ended up encouraging me, telling me she wasn't going to give up, telling me, that we have to keep, which to me was awe-inspiring. But I just, they're so tactical. Which really brought home the point to me that they have nothing to do with God, nothing to do with God.
And we also, before we move on, we have a other examples. We do see you in the comments. Thank you guys for commenting on Facebook, YouTube, and even Periscope. For some reason, I can't flash those comments that are streaming to Twitter, but we thank you for joining us. We do see you out there. Thank you.
Can I just put in and say, I'm so sorry, Amy, you went through that. That's
Yeah.
awful. Really, truly awful, that
Thank
experience.
you.
I'm so sorry.
And I've come to realize my story is not unique. What
Mhm.
the suffering and the just it takes your life. It's not unique. Thousands and thousands and thousands,
It's
and
not
it's
like,
hard for me to fathom that this isn't being brought down more. I mean, Australia did a wonderful job. I'm
yeah.
hoping that we fall in line and fall in suit, but it gets frustrating at times.
I've told many like victim stories, and sadly, it is not. It is, what's the word? Not popular, but it is so. I can't think of the word. It
Common.
happens. Yeah, it's just so common. It's just like, it's so sad that people keep coming to me and telling me their stories, and some of them are just like Amy's, like completely heartbreaking. And there's always new people coming telling me the stories. It's like it's never ending, and it should never be this way.
Here's our next clip of another extra Jehovah's Witness who tells their story of attempted suicide. So he goes on to talk about how doctrine is so intimately tied up with, and it's something that Molly touched on in the beginning of the stream, with some people wanting to harm themselves. We've mentioned this example on the show before, but the Kegel Harbor murder suicide that was happened here in Michigan. Um, she shared similar fears of Armageddon, and they talked about how because of the Jehovah's Witness unique ideology about Armageddon, that she thought it better that her and her kids, and I think even the dog, died, so that um, and that happens a lot, where people will think, okay, well, what about the Watchtower makes people commit suicide besides the shunning? When you have harmful religious ideology that make you fearful, or even make you believe that suicide is a better way out than living, such as the scripture that he mentioned there, and I believe it's Romans 5:12 or somewhere in there, or 6:23 or somewhere in there, that they use a lot to say, well, once you die, you've paid for all your sins, and that is, we'll talk about it later, but a friend of mine, it's so weird to hear him say that, is one of the things that he brought up as a good reason to do what he did, eventually did. So we have a few more clips here, but did anybody want to have any thoughts
Well,
or comments? Go.
I'd like to sort of add in there that, when someone who has lived in that faith for so long, and it's totally indoctrinated, and as that gentleman said on the clip, you feel that the world is evil, and that you end up being out in the world. It's like you've been thrown to the wolves, that you are surrounded by wolves, and that you can't go back to the safety of the flock. So there's that element of, how do I keep myself safe here? There's no other options. But it's also that piece of not having purpose. Like, we were told when we were in there what our purpose was in life, what our values were in life. We were spoon-fed everything that we needed in life. But being out in the world, you don't have the tools to be able to manage it, and no one's there to be able to support you through it. So it really makes it very difficult to make decisions on being able to grow and move forward in your life outside of what you thought was the only safe place, if that
And
makes sense.
I think people have a hard time on the outside understanding, when you say that I have a 50-year-old cousin that still has nightmares about Armageddon. The
Yeah.
indoctrination, especially if you're a born in, is so deep. I remember 5 years old in kindergarten and looking around at my classmates and knowing they were going to die in Armageddon, and it was my job to try to save them. In first grade, I was well versed on how to fight for my right to die with the doctors. we practiced what we would say to refuse blood. And I was terrified at 6 years old when I had to go get tubes in my ears, terrified that they would force blood on me. So
Yeah.
it's real. It's a fear that's created deep within you that you, even if you get away from it, you can't control. Subconscious sometimes your nightmares. It's a deep indoctrination.
There are ways to be able to get beyond it and deprogram from it. It does take time and it does take work, but I can tell you, I married in and I divorced out, so I was only in there for 10 years, but I really thought it was the right way to be. And even now, all the work that I've done, all the self-development I've done, all the training that I've done, all those, different credentials beside my name. If I go in for a surgery, and I've had a few, I still am, do I really want blood? And my daughter's like, damn straight you are. It's like, well, let's try different things first and then we'll do it. That is so ingrained, and it's no longer logical. It is something that is programmed, and I know it's something that I will continue to work on. But yeah, it's really challenging.
Yeah, I remember last year when my grandpa was dying and he needed a blood transfusion, and it was me and my grandma in the hospital standing next to the bed when the doctor came up, and he told us like he needs blood transfusion. And when he told us that, my initial gut reaction was, he's gonna die. He can't take blood. That was my first reaction, and I could tell that my grandma sensed that something was wrong. I was the only JW in my family, so they don't really know and understand. But hearing that, it made me just immediately realize he's gonna die. He can't take blood because, and my grandma never was a JW, so it's this strong, this indoctrination that even years, I've been out for 9 years this year, and it's still there. It's still here that your gut reaction is, oh my God, he's gonna die. And that's
Our
just
next few
really,
clips
really
actually talk about the no
not a
blood
healthy way.
policy. We're going to go ahead and play that one. Okay. If we're experiencing some issues with the clips, let us know. I'm reading Apostate Babe's comment here. So I'm that are
Spencer frozen?
Oh dear.
Yeah, I think so. You broke up then and then kind of cut off. But yeah, the no blood policy, I didn't realise why now. If I get a nosebleed, I just go into auto panic attack. And I worked out a few weeks ago is because when I was a kid, I had really bad nosebleeds and I knew I wasn't able to have a blood transfusion. So I used to stand over the sink and it used to literally be pouring into the sink. And then now, even though I've give blood, and the first thing I did was got my doctor to take off the no blood sticker off my medical file. Still in the back of my mind must think, subconsciously still panic. You can't have blood, panic, and it's ridiculous that I still panic about that. And obviously I'd have blood. So it's ridiculous that it was ingrained in my mind that much. And was it Amy says, I've been left 23 years and I don't believe Armageddon will ever happen. And I still have nightmares about it. That's how much you don't realise that they do brainwash you.
But even with all of this COVID stuff and all of the unrest that's happening in many different parts of the world, there are people who are, I have people coming to me going, I'm scared, I'm terrified. What if this really is? And I was just like, okay, so let's walk through this. Let's process this, because that's the reptilian part of your brain that's the fight and flight, because it's been so well entrenched that we need to start, bringing yourself to calm that emotion down and bring it back to that rational side of the brain that helps you to be able to, okay, let's
and
deal with
what really
this.
fed, I've talked to a lot of the ex community, and of course there was a lot of people that panicked, on top of, because of their indoctrination, and going back to that thinking, questioning themselves, am I doing the right thing now? Is Armageddon, is this a sign? And then what compounded that for them is that you had family members that are still in that, and including myself, that reached out to all of us, texting us and saying, now's the time, come back, that have not given us the time of day for years, or
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden that increased people's panic. My family members telling me, come back now while there's still time, come back to Jehovah. And it was really awful. It was awful that, because we know our family members, they're scared too. I feel like a lot of them are victims themselves, and they're terrified too. And it just makes me sick seeing them being told that it's right now, it's around the corner, this is the beginning, and because they're scared.
Yeah, they're terrified. Yeah. But I mean, even an example, my ex-husband was, he was totally out. We both kind of left at the same time. I'm the only one that wrote my letter to say that I was disassociating myself. But he just faded. And, he got a ton of tattoos. I mean, I have my own, and all of that. But when his mom got sick, she got a blood disorder that could have been easily fixed by dialysis and a blood transfusion. She chose not to because her mom had died a couple of years before. She didn't want to miss out on being able to see her mom. So she refused that whole process. And I mean, her middle son, her youngest son, is a registered nurse, was trying to encourage her to still do it because he wanted her to stay around. And she didn't. She felt so strongly that she wanted to be able to see her family, her mom specifically, that it was a long process, but she died of that. And then my ex-husband, right after that, was like, I'm going to lose my mom. I'll never be able to see her again. And he went back. I mean, he was doing Christmas. He married a woman who'd never been a witness before. They used to have the best Christmas party and Halloween party on the street. And then he went back, and like, she never signed up for this. And so, I mean, it's just that fear piece that comes in there. It really draws on those heartstrings to be able to draw you back. And that's the control piece here.
I just wanted to make a quick note to those who are, it looks like we lost Tyler. Hopefully he'll come back. Due to the amount of clips that we were using in the stream, YouTube suspended it for a while. It looks like it's coming back up. Since it's done it twice already, put up a violation of us with the streaming. I don't know what's with the streaming content. We're not going to pay the remainder of the clips, which was just reiterating the blood policy that the Jehovah's Witnesses have. If you're not familiar, go ahead. We did put, I think Libby, you did earlier, put the link to the episode that we were using some of the clips to establish the Watchtower's policies by means of experiences. So why don't we actually go with our own experiences? I think Amy has shared some of hers. Molly, did you want to start first?
I can, if you like. So I have been a JW for 10 years. I was indoctrinated at age 5, and I was alone, the lone JW in my family, and it led to a lot of tension at home, other than the general abuse that happened. And then the 10 years happened. My mom caught me sneaking off to conventions, and I after that, I was left alone with my thoughts, and I felt this overriding guilt and numbness because I wanted to be in the Kingdom Hall, I wanted to be in field service, I wanted to serve Jehovah, and I actually wanted to be a good witness. And I kept reading the Bible, I kept trying to um, get strength from these stories of Job and all the rest of them, like Jesus and whatnot. And the more I did that, the guiltier I felt, and I as I got older, my paranoia and my this hypertension inside of me about Armageddon got worse and worse, and I actually ended up attempting suicide by drowning and cutting multiple times. If I recall right, it's either 3 or 4, but I don't exactly remember. And I remember that 2 times it was someone coming home earlier than I anticipated that stopped me. And the last time I was about to faint in the bathtub, trying to drown myself. And just then I said, I'm not done living. It was this momentary spark of I don't know what. It was just I'm not done with this. I'm not done living. I have stuff that I want to see that I did not see yet, that I haven't experienced, and I decided I'm not done living, and that's why I'm here. Other than the obvious, I have hauled ass to therapy and did a lot of self work, but it was a lot of guilt, a lot of pressure to be perfect, to be a certain way, and I was definitely not that. I used to have panic attacks about just how I related to especially men because I'm asexual and I did not relate to them. I did not want to marry. I did not want to have kids. The entire idea seemed invasive, seemed out of the question for me. It seemed out of place in my life. And that made me feel terrible about myself too because I felt like then I'm not worthy of love because I don't want to do these things, and I I felt kind of useless, and I felt like it's not even a question if I'm worth it or not. So I kind of felt like a charity case is what I called myself in my suicide note, which I found just the other day, which was not too much fun to reread that again. But that's what I called myself. I felt like a charity case. I felt like Jehovah's Witnesses love me because flaunt me around because look at her, she's such a good Jehovah's Witness, even though she is abused at home, and she's just doing what needs to be done without question. And then once that stopped, I realized that I was being emotionally cornered and manipulated by about everyone in my life, and especially Jehovah. I felt like Jehovah especially allowed me to be in this position that I could not get out of. I was abused at home and I was not let out to be a witness. And me being a witness contributed to me being abused and bullied and mistreated a lot in my life and made me unable to stand up for myself, which made me feel even worse. And then I was living in apostate and shunned for my mother locking me in my room and not letting me out to meet anyone and do anything. So then I was like, what did I do wrong to be labeled an apostate in my absence? I was not there. I could not defend myself, and I was labeled this word that I knew meant you're gonna die at Armageddon. So I was like, then what's it all worth if I'm gonna die anyway? Then might as well just fasten the process up and not suffer with this any longer.
Thank you, Molly, for
Is
sharing
basically
your story. Before we move on, I know Amy had a chance to share hers, and did anyone else have any stories they wanted to share? Maybe they knew someone who was suicidal because of the policies, or they themselves. Before I share mine, Tyler.
See if
Well,
I can get the
okay.
mute
Well,
button to
before
cooperate.
we go to you, Tyler, Amy, thank you so much for joining us. It looks like you have to go.
I do. Thank you so much. Thank you all for what you do. You guys
Thank
have
you.
really helped me through some dark days.
Thank
So,
you.
and you help so many. So thank you for being so brave, because I know it takes courage, and I thank Chessa too a lot. So I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to join us again. Don't be a stranger.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good one. Okay, Tyler.
Excuse me. Yeah. So my sister and I, we've struggled with mental health issues. We were both born in. Our parents were they learned the truth in the early 70s. They got baptized in 1974, so they made it in just like right under the wire before 75, so they were safe. Um, and then they've got 4 kids. I've got an older brother who is disfellowshipped. Like I mentioned, I am not disfellowshipped. I'm inactive. Been faded for about a year now, and then a younger sister who has been disfellowshipped since she turned 18 about 6 years ago. Um, and I just reconnected well with my younger sister, so that was really nice. I never altogether shunned her, but I never really reached out to her. I just wasn't a good brother at all. Um, so I've got some time to make up for that. But recently, some of my own mental health issues after leaving, and a lot of the abuse really suffered mostly from my wife, unfortunately. And it's since last December, so I'd say about 9 months then, it's been pretty terrible dealing with her, to the point where back in January, February, earlier this year, um, multiple times I was in the basement with a roll of plastic tubing, the stuff that you'd use to hook up your ice maker to your RO system, had that strung up to a chunk of conduit hanging off the bottom of the
Wow.
floor rafters. So, um, and when I finally talked to my wife and let her know, you need to stop coming at me to come back. You need to stop telling me that I don't love my children just because I'm not studying with them. You need to stop telling me all of these things that are making their lives worse. And, they're going to be in paradise looking around, wondering where their dad's at, and they're not going to be able to find me. So I finally told her, you need to stop. I can't deal with it anymore because I'm going to kill myself if this keeps up. And she stormed out. Didn't hear from her again until about lunchtime the next day, when she texted me asking for an apology. So that was nice. No, that was at that point I realized, okay, this isn't a safe environment. I'm not going to be able to find any kind of safety, comfort in my marriage. We're still married. We're still together. Unfortunately, I hate to say unfortunately, but it really is. And it is a we're together because of the kids right now situation, and I'm hoping to be able to get my children out. I've got 2 teenage daughters, 15 and 13. Actually, they're at home right now watching the convention. So, actually, yeah,
Well,
we're
like, I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to say we want to thank you for not only coming on and being brave enough to share your story, but to be that open on our platform and trusting us with your story, but also that you are a survivor and that you're here. That's the main thing. And so your wife is still a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I've been in that spot before. I have to say, my husband is recently out, but it wasn't always that way. So I definitely feel your pain there.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely tough. Um, and so, so that's just me. And I've gotten things have gotten much better. I've seen a therapist recently. Um, sorry, not getting choked up. I actually just had humidity or something, getting something in my throat. But yeah, I've been trying to make some plans for the future. I'm actually hoping to get enrolled back in school here this fall is what I was looking for. Um, Trying to get my master's in clinical counseling so I can go into therapy myself. I want to specialize in cult intervention, recovery, and being able to help people get out of, uh, whether it is Jehovah's Witnesses or if it's whatever cult situation that they're in or high control group, to be able to help those people. My, I refer to him as my cousin. It's actually my wife's cousin. He's disfellowshipped, been out for about 5 years or so. I've reconnected with him and learned a lot of the struggles that actually he's had with mental health over the years too since leaving. And so that's been very encouraging. He was actually he was with me. We went to our first XJW meetup together back in February, and my wife didn't know, where I was going. She didn't know I was going anywhere with him, just that I was out for the afternoon. And so she kept calling and harassing me on the phone, and he actually got to hear a lot of it firsthand. Um, and since then, he's been able to really empathize and just see how bad of a situation it really is at home. And him and I, that day, and since then, we've talked more about getting a podcast started. So um, actually, I was planning on taking the mixer over to his house this evening, but that's not going to work out. But so yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to get back to school, get my master's degree, be able to help more people that way. In the meantime, I've done several interviews that I've had published recently, different newspapers, online publications, doing things like this, just interviews, sharing my story,
Yeah.
doing what I can to get it out there to help other people, keep other people safe. The things that I've had to deal with, it's it's not something that anyone should have to deal with, and if they are, to know that they don't have to do it alone.
Exactly. That sounds great that you are not only taking your experience to the betterment of yourself, but you're pouring into the lives of other people. That's what it's all about, giving back. I think I guess I'll just be very brief into saying that we did a episode on mental health issues where I kind of went into depth about mental health issues, but I think sometimes those who are mentally ill, can suffer through the cracks of the organization for all of the reasons that we explained in that episode. And I started off by saying that I remember attempting suicide at a very young age of 5. So I don't know what the situation was then. Hang on one second. Bella is bombing my stream. She was so quiet this entire time.
Hey, Bella.
Girl,
She always just wants to be on the show.
I know, or especially when I'm talking. But anyway, um, to make a long story short, when we talked about the Kego Harbor murder suicide earlier, I talked about a little bit of my story when they featured a few of us in a newspaper, extra Jehovah's Witnesses, in the area. But I know of 3 people who have attempted suicide, including myself, over the shunning policies of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I know of one person that was actually successful at doing it. And we talked about in the episode the statistics of how many extra Jehovah's Witnesses know people who have been touched by suicide, somebody in the area, maybe somebody in the congregation. One of the women that I knew, she hung herself after a just being privately reproved. which you would think in the scale of disciplinary is the lower end of the scale. Well, it's not. For some people, that's enough um, to feel like, for all the reasons that we described today, you're no longer within God's favor, or people treating you differently, or being suspended from privileges within the organization can be a lot, because that is our the culture of the Jehovah's Witnesses. They you know center their lives around their service to the organization. And then there was a friend of mine who shot himself in the head over the shunning. He had a lot of people within a lot of his family were Jehovah's Witnesses, and they were pioneers and always on assemblies all the time. And so his fall from grace was very public. I don't even want to say fall from grace, but that's how Jehovah's Witnesses interpret it. And it was that, along with his family being so close, he moved away out of town to another place to try to start over, and just could not deal with the loneliness. I know this because I talked to him intimately, and before his suicide actually kind of progressed my awakening, because I was not an apostate yet. He was telling me he was apostatizing, and I was trying to channel my feelings and how I was feeling about that. But I often wonder if I could have been more supportive, but I hadn't woken up fully. But when he actually did commit suicide, it sent me into a deep depression. I was hospitalized for a week. And I do remember another time within my life where my husband was at a meeting with with the kids, and being interrupted during a suicidal attempt. And that was another time that I was hospitalized. And I just remember feeling the weight of the hamster wheel or the treadmill of the Jehovah's Witnesses, not feeling good enough. I was pioneering at the time, not getting the hours, just a lot going on in my life. I think I was awakening even then. So I say that to say that even people who are prone to suicidal issues or prone to mental illness, when you're in the organization, the demands of the organization can sometimes exasperate that to the point that you feel like you can't go on, or you've been disciplined by the organization and you can't take it anymore. Or in the case of our close family friend, couldn't deal with the shunna anymore. And so that's a little bit of our stories. We're going through some of the comments. David, I see some of your comments. They're quite lengthy. I can't flash them across the screen here, but I wanted to acknowledge one of them here, or some of them here, some of the comments here. For the YouTubers, our stream should be up and running now. I see some comments about the YouTube stream. David says, from a private reproof, well, based on my own private reproof and how gossip grapevine gets around, I believe me, it ain't so private. My wife and I were private reproof in our courtship engagement in 1998, and then private reproofs on May 22nd, 1999 on our wedding day. 3 hours judicial. We never actually had premarital sex. We were guilty of fondling pornea as consenting 27-year-olds. Our story is kind of similar to that last part, David. And yeah, it's not so private, because when you are so-called privately approved, everybody knows when you're not commenting, if you're a person that are commenting all the time, or they know if you're a brother, it's even more devastating, because you're not on. If you had privileges before, such as being on the stage, giving talks, or carrying the mics or something like that, the congregation notices when you're not doing those things anymore. So it's not so private. Then, people just, like David said, they gossip. So we are approaching the last few minutes of our stream. I wanted to give Libby final thoughts here, since she...
Can I just butt in
Sure.
and say something, sorry? Like, I don't have a personal experience myself, but I just want to say, like, if a religion makes you feel that taking your own life gives you a better chance of getting to paradise, that says a hell of a lot about that religion. Like, it's just unbelievable that people feel that they have to do that to feel like to meet up to the standards of getting to a hope of everlasting life.
Well, Libby, you deal with a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses because you're a life coach. Can you talk about
Yes,
what people should do
and
if they feel suicidal, and talk about some of the things that you do?
yeah, well, I mean, most of my clients are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Many of them I live in Mennonite country, so Mennonite, Mormon, Scientologists, and Hasidic Jews. All of those organizations do shunning. And basically, when I'm supporting individuals, when they approach me, one of the pieces that really causes the most harm in shunning is that you lose your community, you lose your sense of purpose, you lose your sense of connection. So one of the things that I support individuals to do is to connect with their own values, find out what is really important to you personally, because when you know that, when you can speak about it, then you can start connecting with other people who have similar ideas, similar views, similar things that are important. It helps you to sort of create and gather a new family, creating a family of choice rather than a family, of origin or the family that you were stuck with within the congregation. These are people that you get to choose to be with, that you can be authentic around. And when you have that authenticity, basically the energy just flows with that individual. It does take time. It does take work, because we've been told so long that we can't be individuals, that we can't take that time to be ourselves, to connect with our own values. It was always someone else's or God's. So we go through that process to be able to do that. And once you connect with those things, connect with new people, it helps to strengthen yourself, and you don't get triggered the same way as you did before. So that's where I start. If somebody is in crisis, I support them. I've got 20 years of working on crisis lines, training crisis responders and volunteers. I've worked with victim services, with the police. So I've seen a lot of things, and I can help support in that way as well. You can't do coaching when somebody's in crisis, but I can definitely support someone so that they can bring that emotionality down and help to stabilize that so that they can get the help that they need.
So, have you? So you say you had experience rather in dealing with crisis helplines.
Yeah.
I noticed that you put one in the comments for another user. Is this a number where you can be reached at?
That's the number I can be reached. That's my,
Can I flash that?
That's my office number. And that works all over North America. And if you want to reach me from outside North America, outside Canada, the United States, then you can reach me by email, and then we can set up a conversation if you want to be able to move forward with that. Or if you and there's a difference between therapy and coaching. With coaching, it's more of a forward thinking. I want to change my life, and I want it to be this. Therapy is more diving into what happened in the past, why, and being able to process that piece. But I have enough experience on both sides that I can say, okay, yeah, you're ready for coaching, or I can connect you with a therapist that would be great to help you with the stage that you're at right now. So it takes the guessing game out of it.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Oh, did you hear what I said, or?
Yeah, I did. You know what? Anyway, it doesn't matter, does it? I do. Thank you so much, Libby. Did anybody have any other final thoughts before we move on to the visual? Okay, so we are going to have a visual.
Yes, if I may.
Sure.
So what I want to say is definitely like similar to what Emma had on her poster. It's you don't know what's going on in a person's head. You don't know a person's mental health state at the moment. So try and be nice, and of course not too nice to the point where you don't stand up for yourself, because that's always important, that you speak up for yourself and you don't let people walk all over you. But at the same time, just really make sure that you don't put overwhelming stress on people, that you don't demean them and berate them, especially, when it comes to religious children. They are indoctrinated. They don't know better. They did not choose that life. In the vast majority of the cases, they don't understand the repercussions of the things that are told them, and as you can see, they become sometimes messy messy adults, or adults who need serious assistance. So just make sure that you check up even on your strongest friends, because I remember that I was very content before I proceeded to try and kill myself, because I saw that it was ending. So I felt easy. I felt kind of untethered, and that's important to know, that just because someone is smiling and happy, it doesn't mean that they are all okay. So even if someone seems perfectly happy, ask how they are, and if they have a mental health history, just check up on your friends and try and be there for them.
Thanks, Molly. Emma, is do you know whether or not if the Watchtower Victims Memorial is on the same day every year?
It used to be. It used to be on the 26th. I think it was 26th or 27th of July, but now they've changed it, so it's the third Saturday in July. So they changed it because it's easier than if people are working. If it landed on a weekday, I wasn't able to participate, so they've changed it now to the third Saturday of July.
Okay. So if anybody wants to participate, are you a good person to reach out to?
Yeah. And
Okay.
if they want, I can provide them with posters I've already made, or give them ideas for posters, that kind of thing. And if they want inspiration, I can tell them like what we do on that day and stuff. So yeah, definitely.
So this is the visual part of our stream. We just want to light a candle just quickly for those who have lost people due to the blood policies, who have been victimized by the child sex abuse policies, and who have lost their lives due to suicide and shunning. As you have gone through our stream today, that is what we mean, or what is meant by victims of the Watchtower. People who have been on the verge of, as we have seen throughout shunning, been on the verge of losing their lives. You heard all of the stories here today. Those who have lost their lives due to the fact of the Watchtower imposing a rule that certain medical treatments are not allowed, such as blood transfusions. And no doubt, we probably countless other lives who have been lost due to the ever-changing policies of the Watchtower. And at one point, it was you couldn't have human organ transplants. So you think about the implications of those changing policies, that people bet their lives that the Watchtower is right this time, and make medical decisions based on it. So we want to thank you all for joining us today. And Libby has given you some information that you can reach out to her if you are looking for a life coach. And we're going to look out for your podcast, Tyler, coming up soon, right? Do you have a name for it yet? How can people reach you?
So I started doing the web design for it. The planned name changed a while back because it looked like it was being used by somebody else. Initially, we wanted to call it one bite at
Okay.
a time. We were going to take one aspect of the bite model each episode and discuss that based on or how it applies to cults and specifically Jehovah's Witnesses. It looks like that name is maybe in use. So something like Survivors Bite Back or something. I don't know. The name is still kind of up in the air.
Okay. Well, if people want to reach you, can they reach you on Facebook
Twitter
or Twitter?
Twitter's probably the easiest.
Okay.
And honestly, you'd have to check. So the name listed here is my name. All of my XJW accounts are under an anonymous name. So honestly, actually, I hope nobody tagged me with my name here but whatever. If they did, it happens.
Right.
I tell you, I will certainly let me after this in the comments. I'll put some contact information for.
Okay, that sounds great.
My Twitter account, Reddit, and my other actual XJW Facebook account too. So yeah.
Great, that'll be great. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your stories here.
Thank
Ed and Draven, you guys are troopers. Hanging out with Emma, putting up the posters, and we thank you again for joining us. I don't know if you can hear us. And again, Libby, thank you for joining us. And I guess that will wrap us up. If you want to join us in another, is it next week? Emma, I can't remember what our title is. I think we're going to be talking about something lighter, about movies or something like that.
Yeah, I think we're doing films next week, and we're going to touch on like films we love now, films we never got to watch as JWs, that kind of thing. So it should be fun.
And so make sure you don't miss that. And then our next show should be another special where we're comparing cults versus cults. We should have a few people from Scientology.
Yeah, that's 6th of September. So we've got ex-Amish, we've got ex-Mormon, ex-Scientologists. Obviously, we're ex-JWs. I think it's 8 so far. I can't remember.
I think I signed up for that one on the 6th, maybe.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we also have like an ex-Pentecostal, and we are trying to reach out to ex-Muslim friends, see if they want to join, because we got that idea in our head with it being the first ever international apostate day yesterday that was organized by an ex-Muslim activist because of the fact that ex-Muslims, so fellow apostates but a different religion, I've
got to say that Anthony gave me the idea a few weeks ago about ex-Muslim, but I never really I wrote it down on my pad and then forgot about it until the apostate day yesterday, and I was like,
right,
of course, yes, ex-Muslim.
So I just want to say, because Tyler, you're saying that you're doing a podcast based on the bite model. That particular show is going to be based on the bite model. So we're not saying that Muslims are in cults, you guys, but they could be considered cultish by virtue of the fact they actually kill apostates on top of shunning. So that would I saw a meme the other day that you could tell your religion is a cult by what happens after you leave. Yeah. So but anyway, we're gonna have that show, and that's on September 23rd, right? September 6th, not that far away. So you guys, if you want to catch up with us on our Facebook page. That's where all of our events are. You can sign up to be a guest there in advance and see some of our advanced titles there. So we're going to go ahead and sign off, and we're going to say bye. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.